And we're back, quick turnaround as we get ready for our last round of the high school division. After that, we'll follow it up with our championship division final, the actual for all the glory of winning school Scrabble, and then we'll come back after that with the finals in the high school division. I've got Josh to my left, Will to my right. They're going to help us out, kind of analyzing the whole game as it unfolds. It promises to be a good one, as we've got Charles Lee on our left. He is in second place currently in the high school division, which means if he wins, assuming that it's not an unusual score in this game and some of the others, he is more than likely going to go in the finals. Yanni, on the other hand, is currently in fifth place. And one of the things that occurred while we were playing in the last round, as Charles quickly puts the word bunk down on the board, you remember Leo McKenna, who we saw on our featured board, tie 2 games ago, and we found out in his last game he also tied.
He tied again. That is just unheard of, to tie a game of Scrabble. I think I've tied maybe twice in several,
and this
maybe
is twice
1,000.
in a row. This is twice
in a row.
I've tied twice in maybe 1,000 games of tournament Scrabble, and he tied twice in a row.
That threw a bit of a monkey wrench into the standings in the high school division. But as I mentioned, Charles is in second place. Jem Birch, who we saw previously, is the only player to have just 1 loss. So he's in first place. He's taking on Evan Yurko, who is in 10th place in this round. Charles, as I said, is in second. Yanni is in 5th. Yanni was the tie to Leo in the last round that we didn't see. And then Leo is currently in 3rd. He's playing Zachary Ansell, who's in 6th. I know you're following along very carefully.
If that sounds complicated, it's because the standings are an absolute logjam at the top. There are a lot of players that have chances of becoming the second finalist. Jem Birch has the inside track to becoming the first finalist.
Yeah, very simply, if Jem wins, he is in for sure. If he loses a close game, he is more than likely in. Charles, if he wins, is likely in. But obviously, a nice sizable spread would help him as well. Still, Leo is not out of it, but with his propensity to tie, he would need a win. Oh, no, actually, he could tie and find his way in if Charles loses. So anyway, lots of different possibilities that Leo's going to mess up by tying once again. In the meantime, Kex hits the board. One of those special words because it takes 2 letters that normally don't go together, the K and the X. And quickly he follows with Hun, H-U-N.
Yeah, good way to get a bunch of extra points from that X. Of course, there would have potentially been ways to get one of those 2 O's or the Y out, but Hun looks like a pretty good play.
2 F's, 2 T's. That's
so
not good.
The first play of Bunko was also available.
Yeah, if you do that O hook.
But now that is totally sealed. There might be one play available that makes Bunko, but it is not acceptable in this
and it uses letters that are played.
So. Exactly.
All right, so Yanni is up with MIFFTTP.
Literally nothing to do with
the only 2 F's in the set are both finding their way onto the rack. IFF is a good word, though.
You have to see this crazy 4-letter consonant-only word here.
Oh, PFFT, yeah.
Unhook it.
I miss that word frequently. Yeah.
Well, where would it go? On Hunt?
Yeah, it's not amazing, but it's by far the best play in this position, it looks like, unless you want to play Tiff.
Yeah, which Tiff is reachable. Oh, looks like
so he's going to exchange, get rid of both F's, as well as one of his T's, keep TI on the board, and play goes over to Charles. Spin the board around. We'll spin our camera around and kind of get into Charles' head and see what's going on. Charles, representing the DC Scrabble Club, always strong performers here in school Scrabble. Yanni is a former championship division player.
With a great record.
With a great record. Played in the finals at least once. I think it might have been a couple times.
Yep.
Now he's out on his own.
So that Y, yeah, perfect. Great job to see that Y can play multiple ways, forming Y, Y-E-H. And he chooses irony. He could have used his W there, maybe with whiny, but I think irony is fine. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, it's a very nice find. W is not great, but neither are two O's. So between whiny and irony, seems like a toss-up.
He's
Now
got the
look at
blank, so
this.
that's going to help him. But in the meantime, remember Yanni decided to trade in letters, keeping, I believe it was an I and a T, and did a nice job to pick up some bingoable tiles
he drew
along the way.
reeds. He drew reeds, which is a lovely balanced combination, and we know he'll be bingoing. The question is with what?
Yeah, there are lots of, well, he sees one of the words with that rack. This is where his common Scrabble word knowledge is going to come into play. Does he know all of the words with those 7 letters? There are many of them. I have to even check here. Yeah, there are 7 words.
Diaster. That's what I would
There
play.
you go.
Just because
Diaster is a
because
good
it's
idea, Kevin.
it's fancy, and when you're like me and you find a good one like that, you just play it. But
Yeah.
he's gonna do the correct thing,
Well.
which is to move stuff around, figure out what his best opportunity is. Their board is wide open in terms of places he could go,
He sees
and he
something he really
finds
likes.
the one to go to, which is Eridist.
Paradist has some nice.
I think that might even be the best one, despite it not scoring as
it
much.
has good defensive
Because
merits, doesn't
Aridist
it?
is already a superlative, I guess, of arid. It does not take a hook. So that whole right side now, unless either of them think that yes is a word, that right side is not going to be very
Yeah.
useful.
No
Now-
issues
Either of
going
them.
down.
Remember, Charles started with a blank and a W. Got no help with 2 I's, a O,
Yeah,
a P, and a J. So he was. That's frustrating when you set yourself up for a good shot at a bingo, doesn't happen, and then your opponent bingos. You
Right.
find yourself down by 33 points already, but you've got some high point tiles in your rack.
But he does have one nice play with the J that I can see. It's a very bizarre looking word.
But very common too.
Jiao.
Yeah.
J-I-A-O.
Yeah,
Those
knowing those.
great vowel dumps.
And a word that is only used in Scrabble.
Yeah.
There's so many of these, and I always say
Well,
if you watch us,
presumably it's used somewhere.
well, they
else,
all are sort of
but
used
of
somewhere.
course obscure.
Yes.
Um,
Do you know what it means?
I thought it's a currency,
Sure,
right?
surely a currency of some
Let me
place.
find it here.
I've been seeing Jiao, which doesn't really play anywhere nice.
I'm spelling it wrong.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. I can teach you guys. I mean, some of you might already know this word, but Jippy Jappa is a word. It's kind of
Very,
close to-
very unlikely word.
So, Jiao is the plural of Chow, C-H-A-I-O.
All
So
right,
let's see what
send
that
you to
means.
Another part of the dictionary.
Yeah, we
there.
love when this happens.
Yeah, sometimes
I hope
the
it sends you
dictionary
back
is
to
just
Jiao
sending
again.
us
Yeah.
on a nice trip.
You can just go back between C and J
But he's
over and
holding
over.
PI. I wonder if he's thinking, I want to get rid of one of my eyes.
Yeah, maybe he's
Score
saying
around
if I
10
hold
points.
the J, it'll turn out to potentially score more. Yeah, there is a wide open triple word score, actually 2. One with the Eye of Irony and one with the Eye of Eridist. So maybe he's thinking if I hold the J, I'll get to hit it very hard. I think I'd like to see him play it now, but we'll see what he opts to do.
All right, looks like he's just dropping the P there.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean it does get rid of one of the triple spots that
That's true.
doesn't want Yanni to use, but the J and the W, they might look good to score with, but they don't have a great future on this board.
And
It looks like.
it's not the type of letters you'd like to have with a blank in hand, of course.
Let's see
Getting
how
back to
Yanni
Chow, you know what?
responds.
So you thought it was a
You're still-
monetary
you're still-
unit?
you're still-
Monetary unit, you're correct.
All
What
right.
country?
China.
China, you're right. Good job. So,
Little do you know, I already looked it up.
oh, so that, you
thank
know
you
what?
for
You
your
should have been
honesty,
showing off
Josh.
what you could have.
Yeah.
Piety is
Oh, nice
played. Nice
idea.
play there.
We like that
Skins
idea.
all the way down to the triple word for some points.
Getting 30 points with a rack of all those vowels and a Y is not something to sneeze at. It's definitely a good idea. So I like
All
that
right,
play.
more clunkers. to go with Charles's blank here.
Yeah, he's
See if
got to
he can
get his
rid of
J out.
some-
And he's got the O, so that's helpful.
Yeah.
I think
looks
Jot's
like
gonna come
he's
down.
looking at Jot.
Jot
there.
down at the bottom,
26 points.
piety.
Very reasonable play.
And that's exactly what he does. So play will go back over to Yanni. Kind of a slow plodding game compared to some of the fireworks we've seen in some of our other contests. Well, it's back to Vowel City over here.
Yeah, a few games have started off kind of slow, but I mean, they haven't let us down in the later game. I mean, the last game that Yanni played, the end game was very, very slow. They were both stuck, him and, was it Noah Kalis? They were both stuck with letters at the end of the game with nowhere to put them, and they had to just pass it out and lose all the points.
So you see he's got aioli set up on his rack. 5-letter word, 4 of which are vowels.
Yeah, you
Certainly
see that
helps in
word
Scrabble.
over and over in Scrabble.
Yeah, that's a great vowel dump, as we call it.
Where would you put it?
I mean,
In the bunk?
It's a little risky to put it under the B of bunk. Yeah, it does make an easy triple word
Maybe keep
score,
one eye
but
and play
there-
aioli into irony. And just,
But actually, this is kind of instructive because in a vacuum, you don't love to open triple word scores. But if you did with aioli, now there are 2 triple word scores accessible, ensuring that if you draw remotely decently,
You'll get
you'll
shot at one.
yourself get one of the 2 on the next turn. Also, the most damaging letter that can go atop that I in aioli is probably the X. I mean, the Q does fit
And the
there,
X- and the
but
X has
it's-
been played.
The X has been played, so you don't have to worry about
Or
that.
K, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And the
that's-
K's been
That's
played.
a good decision.
So
That's
I
an
like that.
enlightening
Yeah,
decision there.
that's like the rule of the game is don't open a triple if you don't have to, but you can break those rules when the situation allows, and we really like that Yanni's done that here, I think.
so oftentimes you'll hear, oh, if I have this rack, what's the best play? And the answer is depends where you are in the game. Depends what other letters are out there. Aioli may have been a terrible play, depending on the distribution of letters that were still remaining. Had the X still been out there, the K still been out there,
Sure,
perhaps it
yeah.
wouldn't have been as strong a play.
Yeah, and as the game goes on, the closer you get to the end game, the more you can judge whether a play will give something really good back to your opponent or not.
So it's frustrating that Charles has that nice FT combo that would slot perfectly above aioli for a good score, but he's
You
not
have to
doesn't
use
have
his
a
blank
good
up.
yeah
You
he
have to
doesn't
be
have a good
wifty.
word.
And he's had the blank now for 3 turns in a row and not gotten any. Well, he's had the W,
He's
which is
had
he
the
started
W
with the
with
W.
it.
It was just W blank. It got messed up.
It's a cautionary tale.
Then he made another play, kept the W. It got messed up. Finally got rid of the J. Still has the W, and it's gotten messed up.
But for all that, after his next play, he'll probably be down by only 10 or 20 points, holding a blank. So he still is in a very strong position.
Well, let's see what he does.
He's going to play Mot, M-O-T, making O-M-L-O and B-I-T at the same time.
He's holding on to his WF.
So he's
Yeah.
got that W again.
Would have liked to see Watt maybe go down if you're going to
W-O-T?
play in that spot, just because the M is such a better tile for
And-
bingoing than the W. But
Yanni continued. I think we did this in his last game. By the time we always get to him, he's got his word ready to go.
Yeah.
So you see tongue. Now he's going to go to tong because tongue probably wouldn't fit quite as well.
Tong plays
And tong plays
nicely.
right into the aioli situation.
Yeah,
Although
it would be
tongue-
nice if you used the U
Yeah,
here
tongue
with
would be
Oh,
a
tongue.
bit better.
which is also a word.
But maybe
Right.
he'll draw the Q. I mean,
He's gonna
lots
keep
of-
the
Lots
U.
of games have been more or less decided by the Q.
So he keeps the E-U-E remaining tiles and plays tong. And
Maximizing his-
He
so
likes
if-
W so much. Have another one.
yeah, if one W wasn't bad enough, now he's gotten the second one.
Well, now he'll feel the incentive to play at least one, if not both.
I don't know. I think both of these guys are looking for the W in this game.
Now,
Where will you play it though? It's not
yeah,
clear.
the W is real important to Charles. If he wins this game, it's not 100% certain that he'll find his way into the finals, but it's certainly a good chance. All right, my play, just because I saw it before you even mentioned it, I'd play waif into the I in iron. No? Bad play?
Well, it doesn't hit a double word score, right?
No, but the W hits the triple.
Oh, waif down
Yeah.
vertically.
Oh, that's a
Sorry.
good play.
That's pretty
Yeah,
good. Okay,
see?
I thought you meant through the eye of
The old man's
I
not
guess
so
you see, I
bad.
didn't say
Yeah.
anything, Will. Oh, you were assuming something there.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just looked because
that's
you
way
got
for
because
a very good
you
play.
got to get rid of a W.
That's
You
a
just
very
you
hard
can't.
word to see as well, like the W, the F, in weird
Well, he's
spots.
had them both on the rack for so many turns. He's got to see something. It has really been a tough go for Charles early in the game here. He had the blank, which lights up your board, and then nothing but trouble ever
Did
since.
he have it? He had it as far back as Hun, I think.
Exactly.
He did.
drew on his first- his first draw
He kept
after
W
blank.
blank, and then it's been downhill.
Yeah, he's really maybe.
But
maybe
he's with-
this is a learning experience for him. He won't ever keep the W.
Well, but he's
ever again.
within bingo range, and when you've got the blank, if he can play waif or something similar to it, which cleans out his rack in a good way,
He'll be in
grab some
business.
good letters and you're in business. Although this board is sort of, I mean, it's got the T and the I in there, but it's sort of clogging up toward the
Yeah,
bottom.
I mean, and this is the thing with the younger crowd is they have so much time left to get better at Scrabble, and every single game they play, they're just absorbing the information out of that game.
Yeah, as
Everything
opposed to
that
people like
happens
me,
is
where-
just going to build up their intuition.
Well,
to make them an
and
even
you
better
say they can
player.
get better. They're unbelievable as it is.
Oh,
It's-
wow.
Okay,
Ooh,
so
a little confusion here.
yes, because you
That
can always use two E's in a W, but I don't believe you can
only-
always use
only
two
the
W's
one-
in an E.
Only the one W.
Now, the bag is still there,
Oh, the
so he's going to
challenge.
challenge. So Charles, those W's have just been murdered to the poor
That's
guy.
amazing how they.
So,
really,
so we've talked about
deviled
some additions to the dictionary. Recently, EW was added to the dictionary. Previously, EEW was in the dictionary, EWE was in the dictionary, and WEE was in the dictionary. But
Just
of
not
all
this
those
one.
combinations,
Yeah.
EWW not there. Yanni knew it. Paused the clock. He's going to challenge. Not only is he going to lose his turn, not get the points, he's going to get those two W's back on his
Yeah,
rack.
it's going to slow him down even further.
Now with
here.
that blank, it's still early in the game, still wide open, still every bit of a chance for Charles to get back in this game. It is the final, the penultimate round of our high school competition. He picks up those two. That's just got
kind
to
of
be painful.
unfazed.
Picking up the two W's that have been just killing you and putting them back on your rack.
And luckily for him, Yanni has a terrible
Yep.
rack. He's not going to be able to capitalize with anything great.
He did
might
keep
even
that
opt to
U, and he
exchange.
kept two E's last turn, but it,
Yeah.
Well, the
Nothing
choice was to
didn't
keep
help.
the choice was to keep the O, and that
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
have been much better.
Yeah,
So.
drawing AGUE was not good, or
he has a
AGOE
free turn now, though. Let's see how he uses it. He
I
might
think
just want to
exchanging
exchange the letters.
is what he's
What would you
likely to
keep?
do. Maybe just an E.
A single E.
Yeah.
Maybe, if not exchanging, you might think of playing outage from through the T and Tong, but knowing that your opponent has those W's, you really don't want to give that triple letter score away.
Oh yeah, it makes a big W spot.
So I think we'll probably see an exchange here. Let's see what Yanni keeps. Looks like he's gonna. Oh,
Maybe AE is what
maybe
he's
he's gonna
thinking.
play. Oh, maybe he's gonna play for points and maybe
Play A with Jota and
Yeah,
Yi
Jota.
probably.
It would be nice to, obviously you don't love to exchange when you can influence the board and he gets a decent score on
Yeah,
this play.
grab some points.
You know,
Unfortunately,
that's a fine option.
I
doesn't
think-
have a
yeah, I
lot of
think
good stuff left. But speaking
not a
of
bad-
not a lot of
bad
good
idea.
stuff,
It's
this looks
18
familiar.
Points, it's 18 points better than exchange.
Yep.
Maybe he's found a
All
better
right.
play at this point.
So
Oh,
now
yeah.
he
He's seen.
has one of the proper
Seen
words that
wall.
use two W's. W-A-W. He's just going to play the one. No, he's going to play them both.
Okay.
So W-A-W opens up that juicy left column, starting with the W all the way down to the triple.
You're
And
gonna have to fix the
F-I-T.
board here.
F-I-T with a blank. Pretty good draw.
It's pretty good, yeah.
This board is. You're gonna take a look at the board. You're gonna see these letters are a bit.
Oh, so the
disconnected
piety
here.
has kind of moved out of place.
Oh yeah, they'll fix.
And
they'll
he's
fix
exchanging
that.
all his letters, so he's gonna let Charles fix the board.
Okay,
This-
so at some point they've got to
they've
got to
stopped the time.
that's what they did. They're going to stop the time, fix the board. So he's not necessarily
They
exchanging.
just have to push.
He just
Heidi
knocked this right. When the clock
space.
stops and you're
Or
going to
maybe
move
he's
things around.
challenging. Maybe he's challenging Wah. Who knows? It looks
And
like
you know
that's
what?
what's
I think
happening.
that's exactly what's happening.
How interesting.
All
Yeah.
right.
So,
Charles has got his turn back.
yeah,
That's the break that he needs.
that really is.
Yanni probably thought you must not know your 2 W words.
Well, he
Maybe
knew one.
WW.
He knew one, and that's all he needed to get by with this one. WAW is a valid word, and
Hebrew letter, right?
It's probably
Variation.
pronounced Vav, yeah.
yeah. it's-
Vav.
So Charles not only gets the turn in the points, not only gets rid of the two
But
W's,
stops Yanni from working on this terrible rack.
and he gets to go again.
Right.
So, he's within, 46 points, 47 points. And that is certainly when you've got a blank, and he had blank FIT. So let's see what 3 letters he gets to go along with it.
Yeah,
There's
this is pivotal. If he
all
gets a bingo
kinds of good
down
stuff.
here, he's
He'll take the lead,
suddenly
yeah.
in firm control, given that Yanni has such terrible
All right.
tiles.
The clock has started again. That's actually a little soon now. It should have started, but that's okay. It's not
They fixed the
necessarily
board.
going to matter. They did fix the board. Okay, so he had FIT blank. He drew 2 L's and an S. Not the best draw in the world, but let's see what he can do with it.
It's just unfortunate that the letters he has to work with that are most flexible are the I and the R. Irony. So it's-
Fillet. No, that has 1 L.
no, fillets would play with
Yeah.
2 L's
They've
actually.
stopped the clock again. I wonder what's happening.
I think they were just making sure that the board has got the letters in the correct place.
Yeah, that must be what they're doing.
So fillets is good.
Fillets with 2 L's is good,
Just
but
doesn't go anywhere.
as Josh alluded to earlier,
Yeah.
you can see that all the places where your eye is drawn to play the word fillet, which he's seen, look, he just
Yeah.
set it up, he can't play because aridist is an adjective and yet is an interjection, and there's nowhere to place that S down. I wonder if he'll try, though, to put his S down.
And
with
this is the
yet.
perfect time. He's just won a challenge.
Yeah.
Yanni thought he had the upper hand in the word knowledge department, and
He could try it.
right
yeah.
now, Yanni's feeling the pressure of maybe Charles isn't as I don't know.
Unsure
Now,
as we
one thing of
think,
note
yeah.
the one thing of note, and I'm glad we're looking at the board here. When you challenge both words. So he may have known WAW, and he may have been challenging NAW.
True, good
which
point.
Because that's an unusual spelling of nah, or nah, which would normally take a G. So whatever the case is, those are both valid words, and he's going to play just Phil, I believe. Just
Okay.
simple. Oh no, he's not
Phil
going
would
to play
be,
Phil.
all right, if he does opt to do Phil, that would be a play with some merit when you're holding a blank.
IST blank,
because,
yeah.
With Phil, there's a lot going on. On the one hand, you set yourself up to play bingos hooking the F of Phil with a vowel, such as an E most prominently, and then you set up a place to play Phils later, or even feel with an E at the end, if he were to know that.
And that's what he's going to do, Phil. And a lot of good things can come of this. As I said, he keeps the IST blank. Those are 4 pretty good tiles to go in with.
Josh, do you like Phil here?
Phil looks like a very good play. Now Yanni can't stop him if he draws very nice tiles next turn. He now has 2 pretty good spots to play a bingo, and they cannot be blocked within the same turn. So Yanni is going to have to figure out how can he just maximize his score. And I think
I wonder if he knows philo. The
yeah,
O hook.
philo, filet, or fille, as you would pronounce it in French. We'll see. We'll see what goes down. I mean, he has oboe lined
Yeah,
up.
oboe and philo would be a nice way to grab some points here with such vowel overload. Yanni having lost the challenge, but he's still up by a solid amount, and it's going to only increase if he were to make a nice
There's
play.
one play he has that's really nice.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, it's bouffe, right?
Biff, yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, another French word means beef. I don't know what it means in English. Let's check that
I
out.
think that is what
Beef.
it means.
It does
Yes.
mean beef. Okay.
That's a hard word to spell right. I feel like the order of the vowels is a little
B-O-E-U-F.
tricky.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and it's one of those foreign words that is acceptable in the English Scrabble dictionary.
I always get it confused with Shia LaBeouf.
Shia
His-
LaBeouf,
his
yes.
Weird spelling.
And he's exchanged again.
We have a score update in from Jem Birch versus Dustin Brown, his opponent. Jem actually lost his game to Dustin in this round that we're watching. Concurrently, all the other players are playing. Jem has lost by over 100 points.
Oh, my
in this game
goodness.
to Dustin, which opens the door for many players at 6 wins to win by a lot and sneak past.
Well, and we mentioned this, I don't know if you caught it, Leo McKenna, who tied the game that we saw him play, tied his following game against Yanni. So that sort of twist certainly may impact things.
Yeah.
As the standings exist right now, with games still in progress, including this one, Jem Birch is in first place with a 7-2 record. Dustin Brown now is in second place with a 6-2-1 record, and Charles Lee with his 6-2 record is in third. So it's wide open.
The implications of Jem's loss for this game are as follows, right? Charles, all he needs to become a finalist is to win. If he wins this game, he's a finalist.
Not if Leo wins by 100 more points than Charles.
Oh, if Leo wins
or by 120 more,
significantly more, yeah, that's true.
I think
But
you guys are trying to simplify something way too complicated.
Yeah, okay,
Lots of
let's
things
just
can
focus
happen
on the
here.
game for
Lots
now.
of things. And now we see Charles, he's really, really looking for that bingo there. I don't know if he knows the word Mistral.
That would be an amazing find.
I see that right now.
He had it up. He had it lined up on his rack a certain way that looked like he was going to be playing it.
Interesting.
That was very close.
Maybe he
yes.
got, and when you lose a challenge, especially had he really thought EWW was good, you lose your confidence. You start double thinking. Words that you thought were words may not be.
I'm only seeing Milters and Feel with an E at the end.
Oh yeah, no, Mistral doesn't even fit.
I think
Yeah, so there's just Milters here, but it looks like he's
Milters to find us a fish, I think.
It looks like he's playing arm. Interesting. So
He's
Okay.
keeping
He
it again,
lots to block that
Keep-
W, which seems
Blocking
very
the W.
dangerous.
and he keeps
Keeping
LIST blank.
right.
That blank has been on his rack for some time, and as often happens when you sit on it for as long as you have, your opponent has caught up by getting a blank of his own.
I'm just curious, is Gesundheit a valid Scrabble word?
How would you spell it?
It would be
GEZ?
far longer than you would.
Oh, it wouldn't be in, yeah.
I'm just saying Yanni
Right.
could play that if he had some letters to play through.
In the official dictionary, the words only go up to 8 letters.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And so it wouldn't be in our official dictionary. However, there is a list
Yeah,
of
it's
words
hard.
all the way up to 15 letters.
10.
That would be, but it wouldn't be here because
But
it's
like
more
who
than
would
8.
spell that properly? Only someone who speaks German. It's just GESUNDHEIT.
There's no Z?
There's no. There's
Oh,
no Z.
okay, no Z. Well, the reason
Because
I said
in
it was
German,
I
the
thought,
S,
I
the S
thought
is
of it.
pronounced as a Z.
Okay, I thought
It's
of
in the
it
middle of the word.
just looking at Yanni's rack. But what would he actually do? He's got the Z. That's great news for him.
Well, he's got the blank too. That's
And he's got the blank, which is even better.
even better. Yeah. Maybe. Oh, he's looking at mug. Maybe he's gonna re-block that triple, or not that triple, that triple word score. Because ARM, it does block words from the W, a lot of them, not all of them, but it still leaves 4-letter words. And maybe they're both really worried about the other one hitting that spot. We'll see what happens. I think Yanni is a bit too attached to his G. As some people know, I do not like the letter G. But yeah, we'll see what he does here. It's really going to come into play the hooks on Phil that either player knows.
Yeah, do they know those hooks? Okay, there's mud, yeah. We would
Right.
like to see...
So some simple little words setting up some fireworks to come. Both players with a blank. 28-point lead for Yanni, and it finally pays off for Charles as he's
Okay.
got some bingo tiles available to him. LNTIES along with a blank.
So for my, I would expect
And there it is.
an IES word.
Lintiest, probably.
IEST word, rather.
Yep.
And here it comes.
So he plays Lintiest with the blank for the first I. He could have played it for the second I.
Well, maybe he's made the blank another letter. Let's see what happens
Oh,
here.
gosh. I would guess it's an I, but we'll see. I'm sure we all would. But
Well, we'd all like to see some more phonies. wouldn't
yeah.
we?
So with that, Charles takes his first lead of the game, if you take out the first few plays. 239 to 205. And we can now look ahead and see how this game impacts who will make the finals. Jem Birch, it'll be one of four. It'll be 2 of 4 players. Jem Birch, Dustin Brown, Charles Lee, and Leo McKenna. Those 4 players, 2 of them will advance to the final, and this game has a huge impact on who it could be. And then Leo currently is taking on Zachary Ansell. Depending upon the result of that match, we may know a little bit more. But let's focus on this one here as the Z, now G-E-E-Z, another good word. A lot of interjections.
Maybe the fill hook will come into play now. That looks like a really great play if he were thinking about it now to play in that spot. Otherwise, I'm not sure where it's going.
F-I-L-L-E, obviously the French word for girl. Garçon is also an acceptable Scrabble word, G-A-R-C-O-N. So a lot more foreign words, as you were talking about, Kevin.
And I mentioned before, a lot of them are like hello and goodbye, but in this case, there are other words as well. And the rule of thumb that I understand in terms of when a foreign word is acceptable in the English language is when there's no direct,
Substitute.
Complete translation. So garçon means boy, but it's also used to kind of cue the waiter.
Right.
And because
Right.
that doesn't have an English translation, that's why it's good.
And then deep thought right now, Yanni.
8 years of French, and that's the word I know.
Nice.
See what he comes up with. He really wants to get his own bingo down.
These players are so deliberate compared to the ones that we played. It's so interesting to watch the different style in these players because they're all so good, but they approach it in such a different way.
Right.
I'm a bit of a slower player myself, so I relate
we
to
saw
that.
Yanni. We saw Yanni in his game that we streamed against Noah, and he was, like you said, he's very deliberate. He's playing very good defensive plays. He's taking his time.
Still plenty of time, both players with over 10 minutes. It's no surprise, by the way, that Jem's game finished first
Right.
because he goes so
Lightning
quickly.
fast.
All right, so he plays Z, has a few good
I think that's
benefits.
conclusive evidence that the fill hooks are just a point of unsureness for the players. At least.
Well, they've both had unsuccessful challenges, or
Right.
they've both been on the wrong end
Sure.
of a challenge, and that you just lose your confidence then.
Right. Oof. Not great letters for Charles.
Yeah.
Too many vowels, and you have the terrible VU combination. One of our previous games, I was mentioning just the difference between tiles that have good, what we call synergy, and tiles that don't. And my example of tiles that don't were WU, and VU is not far behind in terms of just a combination that doesn't have a lot of words that have those 2 letters, and it really clogs up your rack when you have them. So it's priority 1 to get them out.
We were talking about tells, things you can learn from your opponent. Charles just reached in the bag to see how many letters was left. That could be an indication he's got garbage, although this play certainly isn't.
Right.
It shows that you were right. He only has the 2 letters left, so now you can't use that to your advantage. But if somebody reaches into the bag, they're likely trying to figure out, can I trade in still? And so maybe he didn't have anything that good. But he made a nice play, was able to get rid of 4 of the vowels and 5 of his tiles.
Sure. The logic of Erie is that he had so many vowels that you'd love to get a lot of them off your rack at once. That Erie does accomplish that, but at a cost of leaving those 2 letters, the V and the U, which we'll see if that comes back.
And
as-
Eerier, you open up that lane with an
Eerier
R.
is also a
Although
huge concern.
I'm not sure if they're
depending on the R's.
Yeah, are there any R's left? Because I see a few on the board.
2 of them
There are 2 R's left,
So
so
that
that's also
could
got to figure into things.
loom very large.
Yep.
So
Looking at the chat here on twitch.tv, I see a few comments. Matthew Tunnicliffe, I'd like to shout out if he's still here with us, has joined us.
hi, Matthew.
All right,
All right, so
comes
foo
down.
and the F, we've
Like
talked
that.
about that a lot. There's so many short words that use F that you can use it in such a flexible way to
Great
go both
scoring tile, and we see that.
horizontally and vertically, and that's what he's done. And look at the score. 253
tied.
to 253. We've had ties have a huge impact on the
I swear
on the
we've
competition here.
not had a real honest-to-goodness blowout this entire time, which is incredibly rare that every game that we would do would be this close, right? Maybe one that was lopsided. It's been great.
But it's been amazing,
Yeah.
and you know we try to show you the games that are going to matter among the top players. There are so many in the high school division in particular that you could go halfway into the field and see incredible Scrabble play.
Yep. Down comes Pod in a nice way to score with that P.
All right,
as
these
Yanni-
letters look pretty good.
Yanni's getting ever closer to bingoing. We could see one go down here.
We saw both blanks sit on racks for quite some time.
Yeah.
Usually 1 turn, 2 turns, you try and get rid of it.
R.
And here he's going to use it as an R. And
Ooh, what's coming
adoring?
down here?
Oh,
Oh,
very interesting.
adroit, but
Oh,
the G is not where it should be, is
no, there
Very
is a valid
interesting.
word making the blank an R that plays in the exact same position, but maybe he's been, I'm sure Yanni studies words, right? He probably had a suspicion that, oh, I know there's something in here with an R, right? And that was his guess at it, but the word in those letters is actually gordita, not adroit with the spelling.
it? Now he's held, no, okay, so the bag sat there for a while. Charles may have
Oh,
chosen
looks
to,
like Charles
to hold it, but he's
just
going
is
to accept
thrusting
it.
him a little too much.
He's going to accept it. And not only does Charles lose the points on that, but
That's a
he doesn't have a
big
whole lot to
swing.
work with.
Wow.
Now he does have those 2 S's, and those can become important, but not on this turn.
I mean, you see a word like adroit, and you're just like, well, he
The
must
GT,
know that
yeah.
that's such a weird looking word. You must know that that's a word, you know?
Well, they say if you think it might be a word, go ahead and play it, because 3 things can happen and 2 of them are good.
We just saw one
This
of
was
the
one of the
very
good things for Yanni.
Yeah.
As it was not challenged.
Wow, that's a big, big swing. I guess it is the case that, well, it doesn't really matter. The cue is not going to fit alongside that spot, but there would be now a place to play it for just 30, not 31. It's not a really
let's
big
see.
deal.
Like, if you're Charles, what are you trying to do here? You're now down like 56 points. You really need to get your bingo down.
Viz. Okay, so that's they've really kind of opened up their
Is Yanni holding?
their
So,
vocabulary. I think
I've
he did
seen
because
Viz in literature and stuff before, but it is not in the Scrabble dictionary actually. So I
now a lot
wonder-
of things going into his thought process here. First of all, is it a word? But second of all, it's not a whole lot of points. I'm still
Yeah.
going to have the lead. It does
I
clog
mind?
things up. Is it worth the risk? Because I've already unsuccessfully challenged wah and nah.
Exactly.
What do I do here? And look at his tiles. That's another thing to take into effect. Nothing opened up, although I guess he put that I there, so possibly something could happen there.
Could just let it stay and plop his cue down for 31 and still be in very.
No, it's not. It's
commanding-
not. It's just it would only be 11, right?
Well, I'm saying
Oh,
alongside adroit,
Right.
but
Yeah. This is a really interesting spot, I think, for Yanni. It looks like
he's
really
definitely
thinking.
mulling. Yeah.
Now
he's
he has
thinking
as much
about it.
time as he needs on his clock is running now, so you can see that Charles completed his play, announced his score, hit his clock, and Yanni called for a hold. So much so that he's going to keep the bag on his side of the table. So we'll know it's a challenge if they get up. We'll know that that Yanni's accepted the word and Charles can move on when he draws tiles. And he's going to count the tiles to see where we're at.
Hey, the more information, the better.
That's
Charles
right,
will
and
follow
he accepted.
suit.
No, he hasn't accepted it yet.
I think he did.
Yes, he has, yes. So Charles was drawing,
All right.
and so another phony stays on the
There we
board
go.
with VIZ.
Solid
Nice.
score, 19, right? That's pretty
Yeah.
good.
So we
But-
saw back-to-back challenges, followed by back-to-back phonies.
Yeah.
And we
Not
part
a lot
of
of games like that so far.
no part of playing Scrabble at a championship level is being able to play a phony in the right position in the right circumstances, so that you either induce a challenge when you want to, or you get rid of tiles and avoid a challenge because it's too risky for your opponent. And you saw 2 examples of that right there.
Yeah, in 2017, when I was extremely lucky enough to win the non-school national championship, I played 5 phony words in my 31 games of play. So
And you
none of them were challenged off.
and none of them were challenged.
Yeah, and many of them were in huge, huge spots in the games that I was playing.
So what we're saying is that your title's tainted a little bit.
It is tainted.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. No,
No,
no.
it
You
is.
know what? It's an accomplishment, no matter how you get there, to be able to call yourself a national North American champion.
I am the working man's champion.
I'm not sure what that means,
I
but we'll
had to
take it.
grind for it by playing phony words.
Yeah,
unlike
but
the geniuses in our
going
midst.
back, Will had such a large lead that the tournament actually ended 3 rounds early.
It didn't end.
Well, but for you it did.
Yes.
Yeah,
right.
he had clinched the title with 3 games remaining, which is pretty much unheard of.
But we are here to crown
Charles-
a new champion. So
So
let's get back
Charles
to that.
still has both of his S's. He still has that U from last turn. But you know what? He has a really, really, really weird play that he can make here. It scores over 50 points. If he, for some reason, sees handsomes through the O and the M, Aoli, Mott, that part of the board, that will hit 2 double word
Oh,
scores.
wow.
Oh yeah.
And will
Wait, does
propel
that
him right
fit,
back
Josh?
into
Does that fit?
right back into the game. HANSOMS.
Oh, handsome. Sorry,
no.
I thought you were saying handsome.
No.
Like the
Handsome,
attractiveness.
like
But-
a
I don't know
A
very
handsome
many
cab,
people
it's like a
that
taxi.
would see that word.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Let's see what he's thinking. He really wants to get rid of his H now.
and even maybe one of the S's, because they're certainly clogging him up a little bit too.
Yeah.
Maybe he's thinking of unshars. No, okay, so he's playing.
So he's going to play had, keep the U and the 2 S's.
He's looking probably for an unword to
Yeah.
hook onto the T of adroit.
Yeah, ut, one of those obscure 2-letter words that you'll see a lot in Scrabble. Not
Now
so
we'll
much.
see where Yanni shines most in his defensive play. At least that's what we saw previously.
Yeah.
We'll see if he clogs down the board in a way that just does not allow Charles to come back.
That does seem like a real strong point for Yanni. So he'll be evaluating, like I said in a previous round, what are the ways that this game can get away from me, and how can I prevent those incidents from
It
occurring?
looks like he's looking at cabin through the eye and viz, which is a very nice play. Scores very well, but it does not get rid of that column. With the,
It does hurt it, but it certainly does not conclusively prevent plays through the V, such as something with hooking ain or 1.
We've
Is
seen-
that what we're talking about?
I'm talking about the column next to adroit.
And again, he counts to see
Oh, where
how
is
many
that?
tiles are in the bag, whether or not trading in becomes an option.
Right now, there are 3 tiles in the bag, so playing
Okay, so
cabin
trading in is
would
not an
empty
option.
The bag.
It's not an option, and it's not, as you say, he's making sure that the bag possibly doesn't empty. He doesn't want to play too many or too few tiles. And also can at the same time make sure that he's tracking the tiles correctly, so that if according to his records there are 10 tiles remaining, because 7 would be on the opponent's rack and 3 in the back. He's done it correctly, assuming he has the right letters along the way.
Yeah, no.
Both-
Time is ticking down.
Yeah.
They both have around 5 minutes left.
Yanni's clicking just
It's
under.
Yanni's turn. Let's see what he comes up with.
This has been a real cerebral game compared to
Oh,
some of
yeah.
the wide open ones that we've seen.
An interesting game.
Yeah, they've been battling some
Oh.
difficult tiles throughout.
I see. Look at that. He's arranged anger. I think he's probably deciding that the 7-letter word lane alongside adroit might be a bigger threat to him than the V of viz, which I think would be probably correct.
So he's checking out. Now he's looking at his tracking sheet. What tiles are out there that can cause trouble for me?
Well, there are the 2 S's. There's some nice tiles. There's an A, an E, an N, an R, a C. Yanni is well enough ahead that I think any play that does not allow Charles to get a bingo down in the end game will be enough to win. It looks like he switched to considering erg instead of anger. Or maybe
not
he's
a
back
bad
to thinking
idea.
about cabin. I mean, erg would leave cabin for him next turn so long as Charles does
And
not play there.
So he takes
a great
away
play.
anything that he can put in front of that T
And it
by
leaves
playing
a valuable A.
and by using a sort of defensive maneuver. And as Josh pointed out, cabin, which was a possibility, is still there.
Oof.
And
that'll probably do it for Charles drawing that C.
is he going to? The clock is stopped. I believe they are checking the score. They
Good
must
idea.
have a discrepancy with the score. And as you say, it's a good idea. We've seen how that can impact the game, particularly an important game and one that's close. In the meantime, you can see his tiles there. Charles has been battling difficult tiles constantly. Now, I can tell you that Leo McKenna defeated Zachary Ansell in his matchup. So, as it currently stands right now, Jem Birch is in first place. Leo is in second place. Dustin, with a 6-2-1 record, is in third place. But Charles still has a chance if he can win. He would, even by a single point, he would leapfrog into second place.
Oof. Doesn't look likely right now, but he's going to have to do everything possible to scratch out any chance of winning the game. I'm not sure how he's.
Well, we've
What
seen
tack he's gonna
see
take.
phonies on the board now, and we've
Yeah.
seen unsuccessful challenges as well. So
It's worth repeating or worth mentioning, though, that Charles can't really know. I mean, he knows he has to win.
yeah, he doesn't know the results. They can't hear anything that we're
But
saying.
he doesn't know the specific nature of
Right.
the results. For all he knows,
He knew he
other
was
people have won that
Correct.
would leapfrog him, and he should just do his best to
and that's
save spread points.
That's
right?
always the case. Yeah, he knew he was in second. He knew if he won, he was likely in.
Right.
And as it turns out, because of previous games and the margin of victory in those, Charles will find his way into the finals against Jem Birch if he is able to win this game. If not, it will be an all-California matchup of Jem Birch and Leo McKenna.
Right. Looks like he's just given up. He's played off his U and his V. Wants to say goodbye to those letters.
Is the bag
before-
empty?
Yeah, the bag is empty.
All right, so bingoing is no longer possible.
Oh, okay, so he was pretty much, he knew he was in trouble.
And Yanni knew he was in trouble too because Yanni has all the
All the vowels.
vowels that can help him, and he's sitting on V's and S's.
he
And there's
plays-
cabin that
there's
we
cabin.
talked
Play.
about.
Nice play.
So he plays cabin, and this one's just going to round itself out. What a rough game this was for both players, just battling difficult draws along the way. Charles is going to have to figure out what he can do best with no vowels, 2 S's, a C, an R, and an N.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to have to just score 10, 15 points. Maybe he can hook an S on Jota, make ERS, ENS, ESS. But I'm not sure Yanni can go out on his next move. So he might have another turn or so to.
Well, he's got to somehow make up 65 points.
Yeah, that I think we know is not happening.
And he's going to play Narcs, N-A-R-C-S, so he will be able to go out on his next turn.
Oh, interesting. So let's see. That's that's a good move. Let's see how Yanni responds with his AAE. If I'm not
So this
mistaken,
one's-
there's nowhere for him to put those letters, all 3 of them.
This one's going to result in a close score, which is fitting because it's really been sort of almost like a wrestling match where they're just pushing
Yeah.
one another, just inches here and inches there.
Yeah, maybe
Some
not
games
quite as
are-
exciting.
Yeah, some games are beautiful and have amazing words like Kalisaya and all the other interesting things we've seen. And some games you got to get down into the trenches and battle for every point. And to me, I think that's a fun part of Scrabble, that you never know which of that type of game is coming to you in any given round, and it keeps you on your toes. And for me, it's taken me a long time to feel remotely comfortable down in the trenches of games like this. I still don't love it, but you have to get some level of comfort with all different types of games.
So through 9 games in the high school division, not a single player undefeated, not a single player with just 1 loss. And we're only going to have 2 with 2 losses each. So we're going to round this one out. Charles has an S to drop and end the game. He'll squeeze the score just a little bit closer wherever he put it. But Yanni Raymond, by going over 400 on his last play, what did he play? Bunks and Shuns, I think?
Yes.
Yes. So bunks and shuns
That's
on
a
that
nice
last
play.
set. A nice play will get it even closer. Within 40 points, unfortunately for Charles, because of the other results, he's now out of the finals. The finals will be Jem Birch versus Leo McKenna. We've seen both of them play. Should be a good matchup. The only players with a 7-2 record, and actually Leo's was 7-1-2.
Yes.
Yeah, 7-1-2. So we did have a one-loss player, but he tied twice. Yeah. Oh no, 6-1-2.
Yeah,
6-1-2.
All
So,
these ties
yeah.
are just
Maybe they'll
Ties-
tie in the
everybody.
final round.
What happens if there's a tie in the final
I
round?
have no idea.
I don't know. We'll have
Co-champions.
co-champions, perhaps. There's $2,000 on the line. I guess they probably challenged the last word. I'm assuming this is why they got up.
Sure.
Of course, it's free. There's no risk whatsoever. You see the tournament director walk in and make sure that everything is set to go. A 40-point victory for Yanni. A nice performance for him. He had a tie earlier in the competition as well. He's going to finish in the
last round.
Yep, he's going to finish in the top 10. Charles is going to finish in the top 10. In a tournament like this, that's something to be said. The high school division, the quality of it has just been exceptional. This is, I believe, the third year we've had the high school division,
like that,
and every year it has gotten significantly better, and it started off amazingly well. In July, we're going to have the national championships. You're going to be able to see some games from that, and I challenge you to find games that are as well played as some of these high school games
These
have been.
We've
such a
seen
treat.
some incredible fireworks happen. Not even just in the high school division, also in the championship division. There's some great Scrabble being played. There's still some more to come. What are we looking for next round? The championship division finals.
We will, and we will have the Rack Masters. They are our defending champions. They've had a good tournament. They will take on the Dyslexic Manic Shop. We saw them in the previous game. So that should be a good one. 4 quality players facing off to call themselves the School Scrabble Champions. That used to be the only division. We didn't have high school as part of the School Scrabble Championships. So now those players can graduate into staying in this competition, staying in this tournament, and playing the high school round. Jackson is getting set with our... see what they have to say.
Welcome back. This is Jackson here again, and I'm here with Yanni and Charles. Thanks for joining us here. Could we just go and could you introduce yourself and say what grade you're in and where you're from?
I'm Yanni Raymond. I am in 11th grade, and I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia.
I'm Charles Lee, and I'm in 9th grade at Washington, D.C.
And congrats to you both first for making it here. You're very close to the finals. I'm not sure. I think we still might have some results coming in, so I'm not sure who the actual finalists are in the end, but we'll see that shortly. So this is a very interesting game. It was very different from some of the other ones we've had. This was a lot more like closed and a lot more thoughtful. There were a lot of different interesting plays. I wanted to go over a few of them. So firstly, at the end of the game, when you played Yanni, at the end of the game, what was your thought process? Because we saw you had a few different options. What was going through your head?
Well, first I saw Cabin that I ended up playing on the next turn, and I thought that's a good score. Blocks open the bingo lane through the V, and then as I looked around the board, I saw the much nicer looking bingo lane down from that tee, so I was thinking about what to play there, and then I saw I can block that first with and still leave Cabin on my rack for my next turn.
I see. We all thought that was a great play as well because you correctly identified what the best bingo lane was on the board, and that was really the only way you could lose the game. So we thought that was a really smart decision. So in this game, there are also a lot of phonies played. I'm sure you guys, you took many trips to the challenge computer, and it was one of those games when sometimes words just don't seem clearly valid or invalid. So there were a couple threes. You actually got away with a phony, Charles, V-I-Z. I'm wondering, did you know that was a phony, and what was your thought process?
I knew that a couple of the threes with Z had been removed recently, but I don't remember if I didn't remember if VIZ was in there, and I really didn't like the V, so I didn't really see a good place to dump it.
And Yanni, did you think about holding the play, and what were you thinking?
I held for a long time on that one, and I really did think it was phony, but I just wasn't sure enough to challenge in that situation where I felt confident that I could get the win if I let it go, and if I challenged in it, I was just having a mind blank, and it happened to be good, then that could have led Charles back into the game.
So, Yanni, I hear you've been in the finals before in some other school Scrabble championships. Is that true?
I have finished third twice, but I've never been in the finals.
I see. And so you said you're in 11th grade, so you have one more year. Next year, are you going to vie for the finals as well in the high school division?
Yeah, definitely.
And so, Charles, we wanted to ask you about at the beginning of the game, you were struggling with a lot of consonant racks and you had the blank for many turns. What was it like holding on to the blank, which is usually a good bingo tile, but you had it along with like the J and the W and some other really clunky consonants? What were you thinking this whole time when you kept having the blank?
Well, I was thinking that I was just trying to clear out my rack of those like big tiles so that I could find a easier bingo. So that's why I made plays like jot and stuff to like dump the J and the W, which is why I struggled with the I struggled with the two W's because I really wanted to keep like the lower scoring tiles and not use them.
And I mean, and it ended up working out very well because after a few turns, you drew into a bingo fillets, which you actually assembled on your rack in order Fillets, the E being the blank. But there was nowhere to play it, and that's when you played the really nice play of fill. Did you consider hooking YEH with an S to play fillets there?
I actually did. I definitely did. But it just really did not seem like a word to me. I don't know why. I don't know if it is a word. Is it?
Well, you made the correct call. YEH is in fact an interjection. I know a lot of these words end in H, like ya and yeh and fe and pa. Some of them take the S, some of them don't. But you made the right call. YEH does not take an S. Yanni, what do you think you would have done if Charles had played fillets hooking an S onto YEH?
I definitely would have held. In the moment, who knows what exactly my thought process would be there. I definitely might have challenged it, but I definitely would have looked at it twice.
That's very sensible. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me for the interview, and congrats, Yanni, on the win, and congrats, Charles, on another great performance in your first high school championship. We will go back to the commentary team right now, and we'll join you soon for the finals of the North American School Scrabble Championship.
So the finals are set. In just a few moments, we will have our championship division final. We will follow that up with our high school division final, and then round out our day by handing out the awards, along with a lot of money, to some very deserving school students. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be a very quick turnaround. Get right into our championship division final very soon. We'll see you then.